Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the What Women Want Today podcast. I'm your host, Terry Kellums.
And I am your co-host, Elizabeth Correa.
And today on the show, we have Dr. Gala Gorman with us. Dr. Gorman is an acupuncturist, a naturopath, and an author. Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Yes,
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
All right. So you actually wrote a book in 2022, which means that was during the pandemic.
Actually, it was released in September of 2022. Charlie, we're in the middle of a meeting.
That's okay.
So sorry.
That's okay.
I told him specifically not to interrupt us. So
that's okay.
That keeps it organic.
Exactly.
Yeah, apologize for that, ladies.
No worries. No worries at all.
So, yeah, the real impetus for writing the book was not the pandemic. I lost my sister to cancer in 2021.
I'm so sorry.
And so this book had been coming together for quite a few years, but it really felt like I had to get it done and get it out there at that point. So the fact that it was sort of percolating during the pandemic was a side note, if you will.
So it was it completely written prior to?
No. I have a kind of process that I use for writing books. I create a really detailed blueprint and I kind of figure out all the different things that I know I need to address and cover. And then it evolves into
I like that.
The final work, it's a lot of work. Just even after you get all the material pulled together to go from that point all the way to published book available, not only in Kindle, but also in print. There's just a massive amount of work involved.
Oh, I know. Yes. Okay, awesome. And you said sorry, go ahead.
No,
Terry.
I was going to say, Dr. Gala, did you, I saw in your bio and in your information that you're a naturopath. Can you just tell our listeners real quick, like what is the difference between like a naturopath, a homeopath, and a functional medicine doctor? I just want to make that distinction. I'm not really sure.
So let's just start with functional medicine doctor. So functional medicine doctor kind of is an umbrella term that covers a lot of different approaches, qualifications, but generally speaking, a functional medicine doctor should be focused on finding the root cause, not just treating a symptom, but really getting to the nitty-gritty of what body function is malfunctioning, if you will. And so a homeopath uses homeopathic remedies. I use those as well, but typically a homeopath only uses homeopathic remedies. And I find that with homeopathy, it's fantastic and it really will sort of reboot some energetic disturbances. But I find that it typically takes more than just that. So I combine homeopathy with herbs and other
that's amazing
sort of things. And then a naturopath, depending on where you are, I live in a state that doesn't license naturopaths. So my licensing is as an acupuncturist.
Wow.
I have a master's degree in Oriental medicine. So that is my licensing. I am a naturopath as well, but in a state where a naturopath is licensed, they typically can prescribe medication. And so as a naturopath, anything I do, I don't prescribe medication. So sometimes if you want to use, for example, hormone replacement therapy, honestly, I don't recommend it. But if that's a path that you want to go down and you want to use a more natural oriented doctor, you would look for a naturopath, but you would have to find a naturopath in a state that licenses naturopaths because they can't prescribe meds if they don't have a license.
Okay. Thank you for making that
Interesting.
distinction. That makes a lot more sense to
Yeah.
Yeah,
me
it's
now.
sort of like, it's a similar sort of situation where if you go to a professional counselor, my husband, who just interrupted us, is a licensed professional counselor, a psychotherapist, and he does not prescribe medication either. But if a patient needed some sort of medication, they would need to go to a psychiatrist because a psychiatrist can prescribe medication.
Got it. Got it. So during COVID, we saw a lot of the like teledoc, type thing going on. Were you able to do that during COVID? Were you able to like treat people sort of like through a Zoom meeting or something like
Mm.
that?
Yeah. So, another sort of misconception, I guess, is that with an acupuncturist, you have to come into the office and I have to stick needles in you or I can't be effective.
Oh,
But the truth is that we have a lot of ways to move the energy, including, DIY at home methods. And so I can ship things to people at home. And another thing that I like to remind people is that, maybe 20% of the job would be done by that treatment approach, but the 80% is your lifestyle adjustments and the specific supplement protocol that is created to address your specific issues.
got it.
So the compliance with the supplements and the protocol and the work you do at home is way more important than coming into the office and having me put some needles in you.
Got it.
I have a question about acupuncture. When I was reading your bio, I'm like, I have to ask this question. So I don't think I'm the only one that's like losing her mind thinking this. So just before the pandemic, I had probably about, I'm going to say 5 or 6 facial acupuncture sessions. And I thought I was like, oh my gosh, where's this been my whole life? Like I literally after the second session, I saw a difference. And after the fifth, sixth, I was like, why don't people know about this? Now, I wasn't losing it. I really did see a difference, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
So the needles anywhere essentially activate our body's natural healing response. Okay. So with the face, one of the issues with the face, I mean, if you just think about it, our face gets a massive workout nonstop. Every facial expression, eating,
Yeah.
everything we do requires that our face muscles move, right? So it's understandable that it gets a little fatigued, our skin maybe gets a little depleted. And so when we put the needles into the face, it basically just calls some extra healing juice to that area. So, so it's gonna boost collagen production.
It was
Yeah.
Terry, it was like, I mean, and not just was I seeing it and I still see the effects of it. And that was almost 2 years ago, but
Wow.
everyone else was seeing it.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing to your skin? And what do you use? What creams do you use? And I'm like, well, I've just same creams that I've been using forever and cleansers, but it was the acupuncture and I did quite a few sessions.
Yeah.
So
that's the other thing too that is important to note with acupuncture and why it can be a challenge for some people. If that was the only way I could help people, it would make it challenging to be able to help enough people with it, right? Because I've only got so many available appointments.
yes.
With acupuncture, I won't even treat somebody on a one-off basis, like where they just want to schedule one appointment. I'm really honest with them. I say that really isn't going to help. Even if it does help, the effects are not going to last. And so you need a series of appointments. Typically that's 5. And I like to schedule those appointments within a few week period of time. And so you
Yes.
come at least twice a week. Now with facial acupuncture, you can do a similar sort of thing. If you add anything like microneedling, we need to wait a longer period of time between treatments. But
So you do facial acupuncture?
I do as well. I don't stick needles in people very often because I have a
Okay.
busy practice that is primarily focused on helping people that are not here locally.
Oh, okay. That's
So,
good to know.
oops, sorry. So in last week's episode, Elizabeth, I was sharing with her that I recently got diagnosed with arthritis in my knee. And she actually said, you should consider looking into acupuncture. So now that we've got you right here, is that something?
What would you do for my knee? What should I do for my knee?
Yeah, I mean, is that something that can be helped with acupuncture, arthritis in your knee?
Acupuncture would definitely help. It would help with the pain associated with that. It would also call some additional resources to that area for the healing process. But more importantly, you have a toxic buildup that needs to be addressed to pull the toxins, and then as a result, the inflammation goes down. And
Elizabeth,
so,
sorry.
yeah, so it's I could get you in and give you 5 treatments and your knee would be better for a period of time, but then it would most likely come back because there would be toxicity in your body. That our bodies tend to play out the toxicity in our weakest spot, right? So if you've had an injury somewhere, or you've got some other body system that's really challenged, you'll see that flare up and you'll think, I just need to treat that local issue, but there's a root cause. There's a reason behind that.
Wow, that's interesting.
I was going to say, Elizabeth, do you want to jump on a plane and go to South Carolina? But
oh, I am 100% there. We had a snowstorm yesterday, so don't ask me anything like that because I'll be at the airport waiting for you, Terry.
It's a little chilly today, but I'm sure there's no snow in our forecast.
No, there's like icicles everywhere.
Oh, so let's switch gears a little bit. One of the reasons I really was intrigued by having you on the podcast was like, you talk about stress and toxicity a lot. And I'm just fascinated by that. And I believe I saw you say somewhere that stress affects women differently. Can we dive into that a little bit?
So I think the simple answer, and then I'll give you a more complex answer. The simple answer is that men are just genetically better at compartmentalizing, we have to accept it, right? Like my husband tells me that multitasking is not possible. Yeah, that, there is no such thing as multitasking.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, I tell him that if multitasking is not possible, then our life simply does not, there's no way I could keep all the balls in the air that I keep in the air without multitasking.
He's been reading Gary Keller.
Okay. Well, I do recognize that there is some truth in that we aren't giving our full attention to anything when we're multitasking.
Yes.
But just by virtue of the fact that we have a little bit of our attention spread amongst a lot of different things causes stress. I call them open loops. You may have heard that term before, but these open loops, every single one of them is kind of robbing a little bit of our energy. It's like you have a bunch of tabs open in your browser, right? And so at a certain point in time, you get like 30 tabs open and you're like, okay, I'm just going to have to close this and reboot the computer and clean all this up, right? So that basically is kind of the gist of it from a simple answer. And then there are lots of sources of toxins that we just don't see. So with kryptonite, one of the things that really resonated with me in, titling the book, What's Your Kryptonite, is that kryptonite is invisible, right? Like it can be in your environment and you just know that you're feeling not right, that your energy's drained. You may have more symptoms even than just simple like difficulty sleeping and don't feel energetic. Of course, you're not going to feel energetic if you've got difficulty sleeping. So now you're trying all these sleep hacks. Some of them I recommend as well. But if I think I'm going to supplement with melatonin to fix my sleep issues, that's not going to work for a lot of reasons. I won't diverge that much right now. But essentially, we've got these toxins that our body is trying to manage and take care of, which internally is causing stress and kind of putting our immune system on overdrive nonstop. And when our body is stressed, now you've got this conflict because we need our immune system to be on overdrive, but it's also stressing us out. And when we're stressed, our immune system is taken offline. So now your body's going, okay, so what do I do at this point? Do I take the immune system offline so that you have all available resources to run from that lion that's chasing you? Or do I leave the immune system online, know that it's probably life-threatening, you're going to get caught by that lion and eaten, right? But we've got all this toxicity we're trying to manage, and I got to have the immune system to be able to do that. So it's a real conundrum.
Wow.
And just know how stressful it feels when you've got these two competing priorities and you can't possibly do both of them, and you've got to make a choice. Like that's stressful just when you think about a normal activity of daily living, right? So you can imagine how that's being internalized by your body.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot. I was like, you had a question, Terry?
Yeah. So how do you know when it's just like run of the mill everyday stress and when it's, the toxic level stress that really needs to be addressed? Like, how do you know?
How do you know where it's coming from? I've got so many questions about this.
Okay, let's try to unpack that.
Yeah.
So, how do you know? I call it garden variety stress versus toxic stress, right? So garden variety stress, we actually thrive on garden variety stress, right? Makes us feel alive, gets our adrenaline going. If we didn't have some stress in our life, life would feel dull, right? So what happens though is that garden variety stress gets a little addictive, right? Like, oh, a little bit of stress is good, so more stress must be better, right? So now you start taking on more things, and the next thing you know, you've overloaded yourself, and stress has become toxic. Now that's just the normal stress that we deal with on an everyday basis. But imagine that you've got an internal toxic buildup that's also exacerbating the problem. So now you've got these internal toxins that you're absolutely correct. You have no way of knowing they're there other than by being really aware of how you feel and the symptoms you're experiencing. And so that takes us down the next rabbit hole that is most uncomfortable for people when I tell them that they need to stop suppressing symptoms. When we have a symptom, we are conditioned to go grab some pain reliever and put ourselves out of our misery, right?
Yeah.
And so I tell the ladies that I work with that it is okay to reach for the pain reliever, but not until you have really gotten all the information that you need out of whatever symptom it is you're experiencing. That includes headaches, digestive disturbance, skin eruptions, a knee that is now inflamed and causing you trouble. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
wow.
like, I wish you lived down the street, you know?
I do too. I was just sitting here thinking, why don't we have more access? Like, so that might be a great question. Like, how did you pick your particular field? And why do you think we've gotten so far away from Western medicine and focused so much on, and this is just something I just do not like, is let's just throw a pill
Yeah.
at that. Let's throw a pill at it.
Yeah.
A woman
Mhm.
going through menopause, let's just stick her on an
Mhm.
antidepressant or give her some birth control pills or something. I don't like that. So why do you think where did that happen? Where did that path start to go, where we got away from, like you say, like your body can heal itself, to now we've got a pill for everything? How did we get here?
So the Western medicine premise is that we have technology that will fix this, meaning some medication, some drug. So that drug is either interrupting a process and or meeting a receptor in your body so that that receptor is not open for what it was attracting, and so it essentially interrupts the symptom, right? So one of those two things generally is what's happening with the medication. So you are interrupting your body's natural process with any medication.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be also true of natural remedies. So I'm very careful with what I recommend, even with supplements, because a lot of even alternative medicine practitioners fall into this suppressing symptom trap, if you will, because patients come to us and they want a quick fix.
Yeah.
They're like, I want a natural alternative to this medication that was prescribed by some other like medical doctor. And when you are under that pressure to kind of solve the problem fast,
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy to
Mm-hmm.
resist the temptation and be honest with the patient and say, that's just not how this works.
Right.
You have accumulated these internal imbalances that are showing up in this way, and we need to work to get to the root cause and then eliminate that cause as much as we can. And so, one of the things with toxins is our world is full of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, if you identify what toxins your body has kind of hit its limit with, at least you can start to eliminate, if you can, or at least minimize the amount of toxicity that your body is getting inundated with every day. And then you have a specific protocol that's designed to pull those toxins out of your body. And so it's a kind of a combination. And to get back to one of your other questions is, how do we know what toxins we're dealing with? Well, I start with a bioenergetic scan that evaluates 12 different types of toxins. And it's a fairly inexpensive, quick way for me to just sort of evaluate the overall toxicity that you're dealing with, where that toxicity is creating imbalances in your body. Then, depending on what that shows, we determine what next steps are required. Sometimes it makes sense to run lab tests for whatever kind of showed up, because we want to confirm the results, but we also need to know more detailed information about exactly what is causing the problem, right?
Mhm.
And so those lab tests are more expensive. And so that's kind of like the next step if we've identified that, you know, we've really got a significant issue and we need more information. Not just for designing the protocol, because I could look and I could say, you know, okay, you've got what looks to be a buildup of heavy metal toxicity. So we could come up with a protocol that is specifically designed to address that. But if I don't run the lab test, I won't know exactly which metals are the problem. And then we're kind of flying blind a little bit for how to eliminate the like toxic effects of what your environment's like. So, so we may or may not run lab tests, but we will most likely come up with a protocol that's specifically designed for what you're experiencing.
Got it.
Wow.
So I guess that leads me to my next question. Sorry, Elizabeth. So just
Yeah,
jump
no.
in if you need to. But
Mhm.
I guess it leads to my next question is, do you think that we can actually get enough out of our supplements? And I'm coming from this at the point, like the viewpoint that we keep hearing that our soil is so depleted, and you know, you can't really get the amount of nutrients in your food now that you could 50 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So is our supplements the answer, or should we be trying
Good
to
question.
change our diets first?
Okay,
Very
so
good
that's another big
question.
question. I talk about that in the book because I have a kind of different approach to this as well. There are certain, what I call food enhancement supplements that I will use potentially on a long-term basis, but we want the biodiversity. So sometimes I will switch up even those products so that we're introducing different things to the system. So that's the food enhancement, because you're absolutely right. We could eat organic, totally clean, cook everything at home, and still be deficient, right?
Mhm.
Then there are the supplements that are more designed to bridge the gap for some nutrient deficiency. At that point, we've got to determine, are we assimilating the nutrients that we're taking in? And there again, I may need a lab test to really determine that. But the kind of next idea there is that we don't want a long-term supplement with anything.
Right.
So if we are supplementing with something longer than maybe a few months, you are creating a lazy system. And so it's understandable then, right, why your body at some point says, okay, like we just supplemented that. I allowed that sort of energy system in the body to get lazy. So because you've still got some underlying issue, then we've got some new issue that that comes up. One of the things that I share is that 1 out of 3 or 4 patients that come to see me have been put on thyroid medication. And it does, I don't honestly care whether it's an actual chemical medication or bioidentical. The bottom line is every third thyroid does not just go wonky on its own. Something happened to that system in the body, and the thyroid's kind of like the canary in the coal mine. If something's wrong with the thyroid, there's got to be a lot of other things going wrong. And so when a doctor, whether that's like an alternative medicine doctor or a medical doctor, tries to boost the thyroid, all you're doing basically is creating a lazy thyroid. So it's possible that I would recommend something short term just to give your thyroid just a little like jolt to wake it back up. But if that didn't work within a month or two, then we would know that it wasn't just my thyroid kind of went to sleep because of some of these other things that I had going on,
Mhm.
we would know that there's some other root cause. And I would never recommend somebody go on any sort of thyroid booster without a whole protocol recommendation. So, so I just, from my perspective, with my patients, that would never happen, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when women age, they start putting on a few pounds, they can't get rid of the fat the way they used to. The
Mhm.
blood test says, yeah, the blood test says, oh, your thyroid's a little low, and we can fix this.
Mhm.
Here, just boost your thyroid. And so it might even help for a little while, but then at a certain point with any of these medications, because you've basically made that system sleepy and you've allowed additional issues to kind of run rampant because you didn't even consider that there was a root cause behind the thyroid issue, it stops working. It just diminishes over time. And so you're either going to keep upping the level of the medication, but at a certain point in time, that's not healthy, right?
Yeah.
Medications are creating additional toxicity if that's not really a deficiency that needs to be bolstered.
Wow. If only the world had access to all this information. I mean, seriously, it
It's
just
true. It's
I
true.
wrote a question down, and I think I wrote it down because I mine is coming up soon. But most of us, we do our yearly blood work, and it's usually the same things. I don't know how it is in the US, but it's pretty basic here in Canada, and that's probably because our healthcare is free.
Right.
Right, so they do the bare minimum. But what are some of the, I mean, we're talking about women in midlife, what are some of the most important blood tests that we should be either asking for or checking to see, are they checking for that? Because like I said, they check for the bare minimum, it's free, but what are some of the more, I would say crucial tests that we should be having?
Our body cannot detox if the liver and kidneys are not functioning
Ooh.
properly. So I'm not sure what their kind of basic standard tests are. In the US, testing the general function of liver and kidneys is standard. I assume it's probably that way there. But if you're seeing anything that looks like your liver or kidneys are struggling, that needs to be addressed. And you're probably not going to get it addressed in a natural way from a medical doctor, right? They're just not trained, equipped, compensated for anything that is really alternative. The medical doctor is in a system that pays for an office visit, order labs, glance at the labs. If there's anything really off, they'll follow up with the patient. But if there's nothing really off, a lot of times there is not even really any follow-up. So one of the things that I found really oddly disturbing is when you go to an MD, they won't even draw blood until they've already had an office visit with you. And this is because of kind of the way the insurance system works. The insurance system wants the doctor to give you a diagnosis or likely diagnosis that is then confirmed by the blood work, right? So when I started asking, like, go ahead and order the blood work because I want to come in and go over the blood work with you, right? And they were like, you can't do that. That's not the way it works. I'm like, how backwards is that, right?
Yeah.
In Arizona, you can actually request some of your own lab work.
Yeah, you can do that here. I mean, that's certainly a
Mm-hmm.
possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't normally order like blood work for patients on an ongoing basis, but for patients where we really need that level of information, then I can order blood work labs as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you said we should all be an advocate for our own health. I loved that because I
Yeah.
remember when my mom was, struggling in midlife and, she'd be getting ready to go off to the doctor. Now, mom, make sure you ask them this, you ask them this, you ask them this. Okay, okay, I will. And then she'd get in there and she wouldn't ask him anything. And then she'd come home and you'd say, well, how did it go? Did the doctor answer this question? Well, I didn't ask him. He was in such a hurry. No, mom, you make them
Yeah.
stop. You say, I'm sorry, but I have some questions for
Yeah.
you.
She might have been right too.
And I'm like, yeah, she probably was right. But
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that you can't say, can you hold
Yes.
on? I've got some questions. Write them
Yeah.
down on a piece of paper. Like
Yeah.
go in there and just insist that
Yeah.
these things are addressed, because I used to work in a doctor's office and I know that there's a 15-minute slot and you're probably going to stick somebody else in within that 15-minute slot. So I know that their schedules are full, but we all deserve to have our concerns heard, especially in midlife. I was actually at my doctor's office getting some hormone pellets, Dr. Gala. And we were just chatting because I get so nervous when I get them put in, and she just chats with me a lot to keep me a little calm. And she told me that they didn't even consider a woman's health any different from a man's until like 1980. I wanted to just I was so angry. I was like, are you
Whoa.
kidding me? Are you kidding me? So now here we're starting to get into this whole space where we understand that, when the estrogen drops, it's affecting all these other systems in the body. And you mentioned thyroid. I've been struggling with my thyroid, but there's also some things for men, like my husband's got some testosterone issues that he's kind of trying to address right now, and it's more common than you think, but men don't want to talk about that. I mean, what man wants to go around saying, hey, I have low testosterone? I don't know any. But
Yeah.
how how do you recommend, other than my little rant I just went on, like how do you recommend women be an advocate for their own health? Like what does that look like for you?
so it starts by just making a commitment that I am going to assume some responsibility and control over my healthcare choices, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a shift that most people have to make consciously, because your mom went into the doctor and they're skilled at intimidating the you know what out of you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The
And
shit, you can say
so
it.
yeah, and so she didn't want to be um that pain in the you know what
Yeah,
patient.
yeah.
And the doctor is really skilled at, like, even if they don't say, I'm really busy, I don't have time for this, especially as a woman, right? We pick up on that stuff really
Yeah.
like easy with our radar. And it's like, okay, I'm either going to totally piss this guy off by making him stop and answer my questions, or I'm just going to trust him that he's taking care of me and go home and have to deal with my daughter grilling me that I didn't get the questions answered, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, totally get it. You're not alone. So essentially when we decide we're going to become our own PCP, you've got to find someone to work with, because you don't have the education and the skills to figure
Yeah.
all this out on your own. I mean, that's
Right.
not realistic, right?
Right.
But you've got to find somebody who can point you in the right direction, who can guide you, who has a philosophy that you feel is consistent with your own. And that's going to evolve as you learn more. And so the way we start is making that conscious choice, becoming aware of all these symptoms that we're suppressing. And when you
Mm-hmm.
start noticing them, you start realizing that there's more than you thought were there, right? So, so the symptoms are the clues. And that's why I really encourage people to not suppress the symptoms. That's the last resort is, if you've got a big meeting and you wake up with a wicked headache, I want you to take a few minutes and think, like, what happened in the 24 hours before that wicked headache that probably contributed to you waking up with a headache, right? And I want you to jot all that down because you're going to need to work on it later. But right now we've got a big meeting and I've got to take some ibuprofen or some pain reliever to kind of relieve this headache so I can get through the next few hours. That I understand. I'm in reality. It is what it is, right? But if you find yourself reaching for the pain reliever, literally like more than once every 3 months, right? Like there would probably be virtually no people that take a pain reliever less than once a week. That's very uncommon for me to find somebody who doesn't reach for the pain relievers regularly.
Wow.
I have a patient and
Oh my God.
I just love her. She's like a hoot, but she's young, super, not young, really. I mean, she's a little younger than I am, probably in her late 40s, early 50s.
She's young.
So she's young.
Yeah.
So she's young.
Exactly. I'm 61, so
That's young.
comparatively young, right?
You got another 40 something years.
So she, long story short, exercise injury, don't recommend CrossFit, but she was a CrossFit person and she had an injury. And because she had some other toxicity going on, she ended up with like her issues settling in these injured joints, right? And then one thing led to another with the additional toxicity. Eventually, she's diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a non-diagnosis. Okay. Fibromyalgia is the diagnosis they give you when they have no idea what's really going on. So she's got fibromyalgia by diagnosis. And so long story short, fast forward, identify protocol to use for her. I have to be very careful with her because she's really super sensitive because of all these issues that she has. And so we have to really carefully add all the different components of the protocol and increase the dose really gradually. So it takes a really long time to get her there. But she reported that her symptoms were miraculously better. Like some of the main concerns that she had were kind of gone, right? Which was shocking to her. She kind of didn't believe it. But in that process, she developed a Baker's cyst behind her knee, which is not that uncommon when you've got a joint injury. So a Baker's cyst is like a little kind of, it's a pocket of the material that's inside the knee joint typically, and it kind of oozes out whenever there's like too much to deal with. So her knee's really bothering her. And so she tells me that she's doing really well on this protocol. She's had lots of symptom reduction, but she had this problem with her knee. So she tootled down to her medical doctor and got a steroid shot. And we'd already talked about this because the steroid shot essentially just added a whole bunch of new toxicity to her body, right? And so I said, okay, like, you did it. There's nothing I can do to reverse the action you took.
There's no undo button for that.
There's no undoing it. It's in there now. I said, so, that was a symptom reliever, right? Like, I'm going to just take whatever measures I need to take to relieve the symptom. And I said, now we've got that additional toxicity that we've got to pull out of your body. And so
Yeah.
you just basically extended your other work by, weeks potentially, because that toxicity now is interrupting your body's ability to be able to pull some other toxins out, which the reason for this problem in the first place was some toxicity that was upstream, if you will. The joint issues, the knee issues, all of that is way downstream, so you've got to peel it back to get all the way back to the point that, little by little, your body became overwhelmed. And then as the toxins built up, your body just started trying to store it wherever it could. So
Yeah. Wow. Elizabeth, I don't want to.
I'm just like, there's a lot going on here. Okay. But I mean, this is, and you do include a lot of this information, I'm guessing, in the book.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think, I really encourage patients, even if they're even interested in working with me, go pick up the book. It's inexpensive and it's a good introduction, because if it doesn't resonate with you, if my approach, my philosophy doesn't resonate with you, I encourage you to find somebody that you can work with that resonates with you, that will also support you in becoming your own PCP in a way that you think makes sense for you. So if not me, find someone that will work with you in that way.
Yeah. Is there a resource where, so you're based in South Carolina, but can you help anybody all over the United States, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they don't feel like you're a good fit, like where else would they look for someone with your qualifications?
So I have a really unique way of practicing. So my specific approach, you wouldn't find anywhere.
Right.
But if you're just wanting an alternative medicine practitioner, you would probably look for someone that is a naturopath.
Okay.
An acupuncturist typically won't do all the things that I do. So that's kind of an uncommon
it is
combination for an acupuncturist. So a naturopath is not going to be covered by insurance, though. So the only other alternative would potentially be an MD, a medical doctor that has gone rogue and now practices all alternative. And
Gotcha.
so they do exist out there, but they are very much an anomaly. And trust me, the system is not designed to support the MDs that go rogue.
It's so true. That is true. Yes.
So our time together today is just flying by. I mean, I could probably talk to you for another couple hours, but I don't think the listeners would listen to me.
I'm like,
is there anything else you would like our audience to know, Dr. Gala, about their health, about, I saw so much on Twitter. We're going to put your book link in the show notes. We're going to put your Twitter account. You give a lot of really great information on Twitter. So I just encourage people to go out to Twitter, follow Dr. Gala Gorman, go buy the book. The link is right there. It's just easy peasy for you to do. But is there anything else you'd like to just tell the listeners today that you just feel is so important before we end our conversation with you today?
Stress is life-threatening. Just don't sugarcoat it. When you feel the stress escalating, how I describe it is that it escalates to dis-ease, meaning, we're in ease and flow. We wake up in the morning feeling energized, go. When that starts to diminish, or we start to see these other symptoms on a regular basis, dis-ease, stress has escalated to dis-ease. And if we don't reverse course at that point, it will escalate further to disease. And that shows up in a lot of different ways. So I'm not calling out any specific disease, but it shows up in a lot of different ways. And you have the ability to reverse course when you first start seeing the symptoms.
I love that. Elizabeth, any parting words?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm here checking out her Instagram and like you said, we could literally sit here forever. I've no ending words. I think, that last quote, and I'll definitely quote you on that. Stress is life threatening because it is. It is. So
I like that.
yeah.
I also
pay
like
attention.
I like symptoms are the clues. I think those are two things that
Yeah.
stand out. Don't ignore the symptoms, right? And just don't try to cover them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, this was amazing.
Very insightful. We appreciate you being here with us today. We appreciate your time so much. We know you have a busy schedule. Thank you so much. I hope you'll agree to come back at some point in the future because we know you have a lot more things that we could talk about.
I'm sure we
Yeah.
could talk for hours. I really
Yes.
appreciate you having me on the show, and look forward to listening to the replay myself. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, everybody, until next time, take good care of you. Have a great day.
Yes.